Hear me clearly. All right, so you're welcome to this edition of Timeless Edge Learning Series. We will start by introducing
Abanye m
Timeless Edge.
Weleku, abanye m.
When you join, we encourage that you kindly mute. So we'll start by introducing Timeless Edge and our services, and then we would introduce our facilitator for the day, and we'll get into the learning session. So once again, you're welcome to this learning series. Timeless Edge is your go-to HR and people development organization, and we do help organizations to attain clarity and, of course, achieve their goals. Some of the services we render range from designing competency framework for organizations. We train people and also help them to implement the competency framework project. We do HR strategy and operations consulting for organizations, talent acquisition, that's hiring from sourcing to placement, succession and workforce planning. And of course, we support organization culture work, ranging from diagnostics to implementing change management actions coming from the diagnostics. We also handle organization effectiveness and people development items. Yeah, whenever you just think about people or people need for organizations, you can think about Timeless Edge. Right, so today, on our next slide, we'll talk about our facilitator for today. Can you kindly please move to the next slide? Right, so as we said earlier, you're welcome to our learning series, and I'll quickly take you through some of the items that would cover that this learning series, our learning series actually covers. We're targeted at driving professional growth and organizational excellence. And some of the things you should look forward to as a participant in our coaching and mentoring program is to strengthen your leadership and workplace effectiveness to enhance your productivity and professional accountability. Now, as an organization, you might have leadership that you really want to build up to your next level. Our coaching and mentoring program would be your go-to option to support your leadership or even support your middle level group or middle level organization. We support them in building confidence and decision-making abilities, would help them to align the individual goals to the organizational agenda as well. And of course, continuously fostering professional growth throughout the tenure of the program itself. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So our facilitator for today's event, for today's session, is Miss Bisi Okusoya. I'll be introducing her briefly. Basically, you can call her Bisi or Coach Bisi. She's a passionate people and culture professional with over 15 years broad experience in organizational effectiveness and culture, talent strategy and management, HR management, and HR business partnering. She has worked across various industry in aviation, manufacturing, and with specific example, working with Virgin Atlantic, working with Flour Mills of Nigeria, PLC. She's handled talent partnering, talent leadership over her period of HR experience in those organizations. And she also moved to Kimberly-Clark, where she led a global multinational consumer goods company. Of course, they have a flagship in personal care brands, such as Huggies, Cortex. In 2026, she did that, and she was the HR manager um, for West, East, and Central Africa. That's WECA. And she's held key individual and leadership roles in HR and talent management for EMEA. And that's culminating her appointment in March 2024 as the acting HR director for Middle East and Africa. And in that spot, she led people organizational transformation across commercial and supply chain. Would you help me to move to the next slide as well, please. Mm, Okay. Mm, All right. So BC holds a BSc in psychology from the University of Ibadan and an MSc in industrial relations and personnel management from the University of Lagos. She's a full member of CIPM, that's Chartered Institute of Personnel Management Nigeria. She's also a graduate of British Psychological Society in the UK. She's certified professional of the Society of HR, that's SHRIM, in the USA, and an associate member of Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, that's CIPD, in the UK. BC is a trained coach with our international coaching with the International Coaching Federation, that's the ICF of the USA. And she's the managing partner at HR Transformation LLC, a transformative people and culture company that is focused on creating fit for purpose coaching experiences and organizational development tools and resources that upskill leadership capabilities and enable organizational culture and effectiveness. She has provided consulting services across manufacturing, finance, and service industry. Please make welcome Adebisi Okusoya, also known as Coach BC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faith. Thank you for the warm introduction. Before I go any further, can I just confirm that everyone can hear me properly? If I could get a nod, or is that confirmed? Okay, great. I think that has been confirmed. Thank you all so much. So today, as Faith has said, and as we started off from the beginning, we're going to be talking about recalibration and really setting clear goals for the new year. Whether personal, of course, I'll probably be more focused on business goals, but this session can support anyone, whether it's personal goals, it's business goals, whichever goals you have in mind for the year, being clear as to how you set those goals, ensuring that you're not just working on past knowledge, but really sitting down to have a structured process that allows you to set very clear goals for the new year. And why? Because you want to achieve certain things. So I'm hopeful that this session would add value across the different spectrum of whichever individual is watching. So first of all, just a bit of virtual meeting etiquette. You know, we've all been in one virtual meeting or the other. It's always great for engagement if we have our cameras on and you know, I can see you and just engage with you. Please mute your mic if you're not talking. If you're not speaking at all, please just go on mute so that we can minimize distractions for others who are on the call. Of course, if your phone is on, put it on silent, you know, but if you're on mute, it's best so we don't have the distraction come through. But I also encourage you focus on today's session. It's an hour, max, maybe an hour, 15 minutes of your time, but whatever you get out of it is the measure in which you're willing to focus and be present. So be present, put aside or any distractions so that you can get the most out of it. And any activities that come through, feel free to participate. It's an interactive session, and also ask questions. I want to be able to ensure that I don't only hear my voice today. Most importantly, just learn, learn, learn. It's your opportunity to learn something new. Okay. So I'm going to go into the agenda. I'll just walk through it so we have an understanding. It's an 8-point agenda, and starting off, I'm going to have a bit of a quick exercise, just so that we can get ourselves into the session. I have a nice story. I love telling stories. Anybody who knows me knows that I can talk for Africa, but I'll give you a good story, and you'll be wondering, what has this story got to do with with goals. But yeah, we'll see how it's very important before you even consider setting your goals. Why is it important for you to recalibrate? Ask yourself the why. Why exactly am I having to think of these goals? And why can't I just continue doing what I've done in the past? We're going to focus on business priorities, understanding why business priorities are so important, and ensuring that your goals are well aligned to those priorities. We'll focus on the smarter goal framework. So it's not just about smart goals, which I'm sure we all know, but it's here about smarter goals. And then we'll go into this practical session, like I said, where I expect that, we're all engaged. We go into actually creating our own smart goals. And, please come off mute. You can use the chat, just share the thoughts that you have, whenever we have any activities. Accountability and execution, we will look at how it's important that whatever goals you put into place, how exactly are you making sure that they don't just sit in a document, in a folder, on a desk, on a notepad, and that's where they will be to the end of the year. And then you have to look back and be like, oh, I'm not sure I actually did what I thought I would do. We'll also understand how you can mitigate against risks, because whether we like it or not, we're in the world, there will always be risks. Even getting up, going to your car, you believe you have, the car is going to start. If it doesn't start, what do you do? And that's the same thing with all our goals. We have to ensure that we mitigate, we plan ahead, and we take into consideration the fact that there will always be situations that we can't plan for everything, but what are the things that we can consider and say, okay, let me plan ahead. What if this happens? What do I do? So we'll touch a bit on that. Last but not the least is our call to action, as I like to say. And it's another story. Who doesn't like stories? But I'm hopeful that when we get to the end, you have a better understanding of not just how to set goals, recalibrate the goals, plan for the risks that might happen, but also know that it's important to be consistent. The more you do, I like to say, the better you become. So I'll just pause for a brief second. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments before we go right ahead. I'll just ask admin if there's anything coming through in the chat. Please feel free to pause and then share what you see in the chat. Okay. Okay. So I think I will go ahead. Now, my first comment or my first question, and here, straight up, I'm going to get you doing something. If you want to come off mute, please feel free to do so. Or if you want to use the chat, can you type just one word that describes how you are entering into the new year, into this new year? Just one word. When the year that was about to start, what did you tell yourself? This is the one thing I'm going to do. Oh, optimistic. Okay, thank you, Victor. I see that. Energized. Thank you so much, Faith. Let's see if we have a few more comments coming through. I think I can share for myself. Coming into the new year, my one word was hopeful. Being very hopeful for big things to happen. So that's my word that I have held on to. I'll give a few more seconds before I move on. We have optimistic, we have energized. I've said hopeful. Oh, okay, great. Someone here has said, I like hopeful. Thank you so much, Faith. And hold on to that word as we go along. I'm going to be asking you to reflect back on it. So you've told yourself you're optimistic, you're energized, you're hopeful. What really does that mean to you when it comes to setting goals? To being clear as to, oh yes, I'm hopeful, but what am I going to do to bring about that hope? What steps do I have to take to ensure that my feeling of hopefulness or being hopeful translates into action? My feeling of being energized or being optimistic about the year translates into achievements. So we'll come back on this point, but ready for stories? Who's interested in a story? I am. So let's move on. If I don't have anybody else commenting in the chat, I'll just move on. Let's move on to a story. And like I said, I enjoy stories, and I hope you like this story. And this story really just goes into more depth as to why recalibration matters. As Faith said in the beginning, in my profile, you see that I have had experience in aviation. I worked with Virgin Atlantic and then with Virgin Nigeria, which was a JV between the Nigerian government and Virgin Atlantic. So when it's in aviation, I always find it so interesting. I love to know what's going on in the industry. However, as you see in the map there, you see the pilots getting ready to go. If my story begins rather with a pilot, let's call the pilot BC, once took off on a long haul flight. So like you saw the map that I shared before, every plane has a destination. It has a goal. It's gearing to get somewhere. And Pilot BC decided to, okay, it's my shift. We have pilots on rotation. He's about to get off to go on a long haul flight somewhere. And he goes into the cockpit. You see him, he's ready. His hands are on the gear, ready to start that flight. But unfortunately, Pilot BC forgot to recalibrate the aircraft compass by just 1 degree. And this has happened. If you go online, you see it has happened where the pilot assumes, oh, first officer is going to, do that recalibration. But unfortunately, he might have even done a bit of calibration, but by 1 degree, he missed it. So this is why I'm going to ask you, come off mute, use the chat. What do you think happened when Pilot BC did not calibrate or missed the calibration of the aircraft's compass by just 1 degree? So come off mute or use the chat. What do you think happened? He would definitely land in a different location. Yes, okay. And I see Faith said he landed in his sitting room, in the bush, by his grace, hopefully not. But yes, I love the comments coming through. He would not land at his destination. Thank you so much for that, Choma. And we'll see on the next slide. Thank you for all the comments coming through. We see on the next slide that Pilot BC, with all the best intentions, we see the map here that this is the map of the world. He had a goal. The goal was, in his mind, he thought, oh yeah, I was getting there. I'm hopeful I will get to my destination, but I have not taken the steps that I need to take to get me to that destination. And just as the comments have said, he had a desired destination. However, everything seemed fine. When you're up there, how many thousands of feet above ground, everything looks okay. But as Pilot BC discovered, his desired destination, which was Europe, maybe he was going to the UK, somewhere along the line, discovered that he ended up in Australia. That would have been a very long flight. So the reality is that even though the story is stretched somehow, because I can imagine he may have needed to land for fuel. But the fact is, whatever happened, his flight plan that would have taken him to Europe, and that's the plan that's set, it's there. Every aircraft typically would have a flight plan. It's this day and age of automation, it's imputed. The aircraft itself is an automated tool. But what happens if you do not go back? Exactly, as Faith has said, a waste of energy, effort, and time. And that is what would happen if we do not spend the time that we need prior to hitting the ground, entering the new year. We've said it. We've said it. We're hopeful. We're full of, different ideas. But just as Faith has said, it's such a waste of energy, effort, and time, because he went into the aircraft believing that what was set up for the aircraft is what would take him to his destination. And that wasn't the case. He did not recalibrate. He did not go back to say, hold up, I want to be sure that as hopeful as I am, are these the right steps that will get me to where I'm going? So let me ask a question. I mean, how could this situation have been prevented? Definitely, I've said it, maybe he could have done it different, but what other steps do you think Pilot BC could have taken to just prevent this waste of time, energy, and effort, as Faith has said? Anyone want to come off mute, or feel free to use the chat? Okay, I see some comments coming through. How could Pilot BC have just made this a better journey for himself, an easier journey for himself? What could have happened differently? Okay, so as I move on, yeah, he should have checked. Exactly, he should have checked and recalibrated. Thank you for that. He should have checked and recalibrated, because at the end of the day, he assumed that what worked for him in the past will continue to work, and that's not the case. The reality is that a tiny misalignment at the start created a massive deviation in the end. And that's why it's so important to recalibrate. A tiny, unclear goal, undefined goal, unable to really spell out the steps to the destination is what will end up with you going on a journey and unfortunately not getting to the end point, because you've either decided that you're going to use what has existed in the past, or you haven't taken the time to go into detail, into depth, to really go through the steps you need to get to your destination. So an interesting story, but this also really tells us how it's so important to ensure that whatever goals we go into the new year with, we are clear. And just as we see on the slide here, recalibrating is an intentional act. You don't recalibrate by assumption. You must stop, you must pause, you reflect, you realign, you get renewed focus when you recalibrate. When you pause and you reflect, you say, okay, last year, these are the steps I took to achieve this business result. We sold XYZ% in the market. We were able to create this new route to market. We created revenue of 250 billion. What did we do? Oh, great, we did XYZ. Fantastic. That's reflection. What should we be doing this year to make, to grow? Either if we decide we want to grow, even if we want to maintain the same business goals, what exactly do we need to do this year? We cannot say because last year we went into, let's say, Aba market and we're able to sell our products there, that the same thing will happen this year. It's not possible. Maybe there's an opportunity to go into a different space. So I see Austin has his hand raised. Austin, how are you? Please go ahead. Do you have a question? Okay, I think we'll come back to Austin. Austin, if you have a question, you can use the chat. Please feel free to put it in the chat, your question. But the purpose of this slide is really just telling all of us that we have to pause, reflect, we have to recalibrate goals. Goals that worked last year, there's no no guarantee that they will work again this year. So it's important that you take that opportunity to pause. So I'm going to ask you all to please use the chat. And the question I have is, what is the one thing you want to recalibrate this year at work? Think of one thing that you know last year, oh, I was able to achieve this. So I did not achieve it. It's fine. This year, this is what I want to achieve. But I believe strongly I need to recalibrate based on this story that I just told you. So what is the one thing you want to recalibrate at work? Let's use the chat, or if you like, you can come off mute and we have a conversation around it. What is the one thing you want to recalibrate this year at work? And I can give you my perspective while we're still thinking about it. I definitely want to recalibrate, and it's on a personal note. For me, it's time management. I definitely want to, change some of the steps that I've taken where time management is concerned. I don't believe that the steps I took last year were great, but I definitely can do more going into within the new year. So that is definitely one thing that I want to recalibrate this year from a personal perspective. From a business perspective, I want to enter white spaces. I want to go into new spaces that I have not entered before. And that's something I want to recalibrate. I do some more, as they say, business development. So if anyone has a comment, please put it in the chat. What is the one thing you want to recalibrate this year at work? And whilst we're all thinking about it, okay, thank you, Faith. I see. I want to recalibrate clearer objective setting for my team this year. Great. So you want to be really, you know that objective setting is something that obviously, yeah, it's been done, you've done. But this year you want to ensure it's clearer. You want to take those steps that will make it clearer for yourself and for your team as well. Thank you for that. So we now understand why recalibration matters. We know that it's a fact that if we do what we've done in the past and we believe that those steps will get us to this current state, that's not the case. That is not what would happen, as we saw with the story. And even if it has happened in the past for us over a period of time, there's no guarantee that if you do the same thing last year, this year, that it will happen. And that's why you have to be very focused, very detailed on how you set objectives. But let us, before we even go into the art, the structure, framework of setting smarter objectives, as I like to say, let's go deeper, to really understand why it's not just important to recalibrate our annual work goals, but ensure that they are linked to business objectives. And I start with this quote, which if you go online, you would listen to the speech that Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, gave in Davos just, I think, a week or so ago. And he said something that I personally have taken, I've written down around the spaces where I am. And he said, nostalgia is not a strategy. And it's similar to what I said with the story. What has been is not a strategy to move forward. So now we have an opportunity to really define our goals, not based on past experiences, or yes, we can learn from the past, but not based on past goals. It has to be fresh. The goals must be recalibrated, because wishing for what was is not a strategy to take us forward. And which brings me to this point here. And I would like to get, comments off mute if anyone would come off mute. Oh, great. I see a comment here. I would like to recalibrate my management process. Fantastic. Thank you for that comment. I'll touch on this as we go along, because this is actually where we're coming to, where we see that goals, especially goals at work, if they are not well aligned to our business priorities, then I hazard to say that we don't have the strategic fuel, the power that we need to achieve those goals. So the statement here is alignment is not optional, it's strategic fuel. let's have a conversation on. You can use the chat, you can come off mute. Why is it so important to ensure that our work goals are well aligned with the organizational direction, with the business focus? Who would like to come off mute and tell us why that's the case? Or just give your own perspective. Is it necessary to align? And if it is, why is it so important? Why is it the fuel, the strategic fuel that gets the business, that gets us to achieving our goals? Anybody want to come off mute? Or if not off mute, just give your own perspective in the chat. So I'll give a few seconds. Alignment is not optional. That's a very bold statement. It's not optional. It's strategic fuel. And we know what fuel does. If your car doesn't have fuel, what happens? Car is just dead. There's no amount of, let it be, what's it called? Lexus E7445. Or as my son loves, all the Mercedes. Let the Mercedes, whichever one. There's no fuel in that car is going nowhere. And here, this statement is coming out boldly to say, alignment is not optional. Aligning with the business organizational direction, your objectives, your work objectives, they are not aligned with the organizational direction. It's not even optional. If they're not aligned, we can tell that means there's no fuel. So I'll wait one few more seconds and move on. Any comments that come through the chat, I can always come back to revisit that. Great. So I say a comment has come through. Wow, thank you for that. I think alignment adds support to the energy required to move the business forward. Wow, that is amazing. Because here we're saying it's not just that your goals should be aligned. There's the what? There's the business goals. We want to grow market share. We want to become a 50 billion naira company. But when you also you align to that, of course, you are probably selling more in different areas. But by aligning, you also it creates the energy. Just as Faith has said, thank you for that comment, because the energy required, that's also the how. How are people going to make it happen? How are they, when they see that everything I do is connected to the bigger business goal, there is more energy to do. There is more energy to do the work, to move the business forward. So thank you for that comment. And with that, I think we'll move into really just seeing, and the slide that I will share, just talking about how we align, it's really just for a fictional organization. Now, depending on your own specific organization, you might have different layers. But before we go into that, I just want to show us this statement, and we've said it. Alignment is not optional. We've talked about it. It's the strategic fuel. And as Faith has said, it's also that energy, it gives us the energy required to move the business forward. Before we set personal or team goals, we must understand the organization's direction. Where is the organization going to? Where is the business direction? How are we, what do we want to do? Before you can even talk about the how you get there, what does the business want to achieve? And I would also ask you, going into the chat, what business priorities do you think will shape your work this year? Let's use the chat for this. What business priorities do you think will shape your work this year? And there's so many business priorities, so many. I can share from my perspective, business priorities. And, we can usually we might start quite high level. Oh, I see here, cost reduction. That is the clear business priority. It's a statement, reduce costs. We have to go from XYZ million dollars naira to reduced by 30%, 20%. Tall order, but it's a business price, it's a business imperative. Grow market share is a business imperative. Enter white spaces, the places you have not gone to sell before, is a business imperative. Improve employee engagement. We want to grow our employee engagement scores, metrics by 2%, 5%. Become more competitive in pricing. Our competitors are outpricing. They're outpricing us. Their prices are much more, you know, they are taken more by the consumers. The consumers feel that it's more competitive to buy from our consumers than it is from us. What tweaks can we make? How do we retain clients, grow our clients? The same thing operationally. How do we operate our machines, our production sites with minimal waste, ensuring that we are efficient? How are those machines turning? Are they at full efficiency? Are they at minimum efficiency? So there are so many. Thank you for all the comments in the chat. The business priorities, and I would, in a sense, maybe summarize them. And if anyone has a different thought, please feel free to share. We when we talk about business priorities, everything we've just discussed, it's people, products, it's processes, it's customers, it's profit. Cost reduction, it goes into it improves the bottom line, it increases the profit. Pricing, what gross margins are we playing with here? Where can we, tweak production if we want to improve our pricing? Is there anything we can do differently in the production process? Even raw materials. And to cap it up, if you notice, I put it's not at the bottom, but it's even our foundation. How can we do business sustainably, considering the environment? We have so many, even in Nigeria, for sure, sustainability is a big deal now. Respect for the environment, because if the environment can be sustained, then we know that the governments or even business entities are not having to spend so much in dealing with flooding, natural disasters of sorts, because the environment is there. And then, of course, the economy can even be more stable. So, thanks, Faith. I see she said she loves client retention, because it's one thing to get the clients, another thing to retain. So there's so many business priorities. And with that point, it takes us into the alignment ladder. When we look at our business priorities, so for example, with the examples we've seen in the chat, clients retention, cost reduction, the business has told you need to reduce cost maybe by XYZ%. But they've told you this, you're in finance, you're in HR, this function, HR function, you're in production. How do you take this cost reduction drive or statement and make it specific to your business unit, to your function? And this is where we have to ensure that we think of an alignment ladder. What does the ladder do? It takes us on steps. For some, it goes up, it comes down. But what a ladder does, it shows you that there is a flow. It's upswing, there's a downswing. If you're going up to fix the roof, you must come down afterwards. And that's the same thing with the objectives. That when the business tells us we need to reduce costs, the business has given that statement. It has told you you must reduce cost by XY%. How does that get down to the department of function? Let's say operations, or let's say the board. If you have a board, depending on your organization, the board has said you must reduce costs. We've seen, the numbers we want so you as an executive team come up with a number. You within finance, you did okay. This is what they've told us to reduce costs. How do we as finance align with this business objective? And down to the individual, the technicians, the sales team. What does cost reduction mean to them? The people function, human resources, what does it mean? And that is why I love, I saw this on a side and I said I will replicate. And partly because we all have different businesses. Some businesses where they're talking about a 7-step layer of employees, starting from or organizational layer rather, from the business all the way down. For some organizations, it might be 3 steps. But whatever it is for the organization that you are in, you must ensure that that alignment is clear. So I'll show you an example, excuse me, on the next view. And over here, when we think about, just hold this statement. I want you to just hold the statement. You don't have to respond to it now, but I want you to hold that statement. So we've talked about the business imperative. We talked about the priorities. And now, when we think about those priorities, let's flick onto this next slide here. Imagine, and this is just a fictional example, but when you think about your business priorities, you think about what have you been told this year by your organization that you need to do. So here I used, for example, that the board of an organization has said you must grow market share by 20%. And then the executive team have said, okay, that 20%, maybe it's a group of companies or one company, depending on your business, that we are going to increase revenue to $2 billion Naira in 2026. That's what that 20% means. The production team says, okay, how can we support this? Well, we maintain our operational efficiency at 98%, means that there are no breakdowns, as best as we can, deal with what's within our control, reduce waste. There's so many different aspects, but this is just showing one. Now, you as a technician, if I'm a technician there, what does that mean for me? If you tell a technician, oh, they said we should grow market share by 20%, okay. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean anything. He cannot be aligned to that statement. He can be energized by the fact that the business wants to grow, but unfortunately, he cannot be aligned to do the work he does by the statement of grow market share. He's asking himself, what does that mean for me? But here, you can actually get to the point of, oh, for you, Mr. Technician, one or Miss Technician, achieve 0 reportable incidents. We don't want any injuries on the line. We don't want any situations on the production floor where production is not done per process. We don't want people sidestepping process or ignoring safety rules, ignoring safety norms. Because when we have reportable incidents, what happens? It affects the equipment, it affects the machinery. It's possible we have to slow down, shut down for a day, a few hours. And what does that do? It has a knock-on effect on us achieving our revenue. And guess what? That growth of 20% in market might not happen the way we want it to. So can you see how that alignment happens? I'll pause for a second. I don't know if we have any comments in chat or if anyone just has a thought around this alignment and ensuring that whatever is done, whatever objectives you are, whichever place, layer, supervisory layer you are in, excuse me, within the organization, that objectives are well aligned. You align your objectives to the business goal. And it does take work, and I'll talk about that later on. One time may not create that perfect alignment, but the more you do, the better you become. And guess what? Nostalgia is not a strategy. If you are not well aligned, the business does not have that strategic fuel or energy in order to achieve its goals. So let me pause for a second. Any comments, questions, please feel free to put it into chat before we go into the next segment. Yeah, thank you for that comment, Faith. Really clear. It shows how the technicians' alignments can affect whether we achieve the business goal or not. Yeah. Imagine, and of course, this is just looking at production. The same thing with, in the different functions. Imagine if we have reportable incidents, safety, near misses, safety issues on the line every week. It's almost difficult to maintain operational efficiency. And if the lines are not working, and here I'm talking manufacturing environment, the lines are not working the way they should, it's difficult to hit the revenue target. The same thing when we also talk about in a service industry. because for us, aviation, I mean, I loved my time there. But for us, on-time departure was important because every time you did not take off on time, you started to incur some costs. Every time that aircraft sat down without leaving the tarmac, going on its destination, you're incurring costs. So down to the check-in agents, just the ability to check in passengers within a particular time frame. That's what the check-in agent is looking at. That's his or her own contribution to the on-time departure that the bigger operational team is looking at. And then, of course, to the overall growth of revenue for the airline. So alignment on business objectives is across board. In every industry, in every circumstance, we are always aligning to the bigger goal. So thank you for that comment, Faith. And with that, I'm going to go into the smarter goal framework. And the smarter goal framework here is talking about, we know about SMART, and I'll just flick through you know, not quickly, but we know what SMART. We've heard the term SMART goals. And here I'm focused here first of all on SMART. So I'll just run through because SMART goals, we've talked about aligning, but now I want to align. I'm hopeful for the year. How do I go from being hopeful with the intention to do to actual execution? So over here, I have an example that we're just going to play around with. Sorry. We'll just keep on playing around with for some time. Let's start with the SMART, specific. The goals should be clear. There's no doubts about it. They need to leave no room for ambiguity. People cannot be unsure of what they're supposed to be doing. And over here, I'm starting with wellness. I'm a wellness freak, so that's why I thought it was important to put it there. Just pushing that out there. But what is the goal? So you set your objective. You want to align. You want to align with maybe the business employee engagement. You want to improve wellness. You want to ensure that people with maybe high BP starts to drop. It's all part of your wellness goals within your organization. And you say that technicians should walk 10,000 steps 4 days a week for the next 2 months to improve cardiovascular health. That's heart health. So the what, SMART, what's the specific? They need to walk. That's the first thing. If we don't have work there, then people don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Because we can say, oh, technicians need 10,000 steps for this. They need it how? What are they going to do? Are they walking? Are they talking? Are they dancing? So now it's specific. They walk. Moving on to the next concept of the SMART goal, it says it has to be measurable. We have to define metrics to track progress. The same way if a business wants to achieve 2 billion naira for the year, I'm sure we have our finance team on the call as well. There's a way every month you're looking at your revenue, you're looking at your expenditure, you're looking at, okay, what, by the time we net off the expenses from our revenue, all the overheads, where are we? What's our net profit? That's how you're tracking. And the same thing with this example. We say if they walk 10,000 steps 4 days a week, then we know those are the metrics. That's the how we expect them to achieve the goal of walking. What do we want them to walk? 10,000 steps 4 days a week. And then we now come to the goals. They're achievable. Is it achievable? They must be realistic. Goals must be realistic and attainable, given available resources and skills. So over here, we're saying, okay, we want people to walk 10,000. Who exactly is doing this work? The work that they have now, I thought I'm talking about the work you give the individual. If you tell the finance officer to ensure that they are able to run the production line, might not be the right thing, because unfortunately it won't be achievable if they don't have the skills and they don't have the resources. Have they ever been on the production line? And that's where, it's important that people have the training, the knowledge, and we cannot just put someone to a task and say, okay, go do it. No. So we're saying that, okay, if it's the technicians, they've been trained, they know how to work. So definitely they will work. And then we say relevant. Exactly what's the why? I realize in life, that why is the biggest thing. Exactly what are we striving for? It should matter. People need to understand the bigger goal. So we know that and when we remember, let's go back to alignment, that when we say that we're asking people to walk, the technicians now to walk 10,000 steps 4 days a week for the next 2 months, it is to improve cardiovascular health, which is now a bigger goal for the organization. Employee engagement or connected to, some other aspects as well. So that why must be clear. And last but not the least, on the SMART concept, if something doesn't have a deadline, it's a problem. We always have to ensure that, or else it becomes a desire, it's an intention. The same way, if we did not schedule this session for today at this time, it's an intention and a good intention. Oh, I intend to run a training. Fantastic. No date, no time, no how. It will always be a fantastic intention. Unfortunately, it does not go into execution. And with that in mind, so SMART goals, we've all probably heard of it. We understand the SMART concepts. We even say it, let's be smart, let's get things done. But then there are two new parts of the SMART concept, which now it makes the goals smarter. So we understand we move from intention to execution. But again, this is another how. Are we doing it from an ethical perspective? And this is so important, because integrity, ethics, and ensuring that we do things in the right way keeps the business going and reduces the risk of the business not being here tomorrow. Because unfortunately, in the past, organizations have achieved certain goals, but not ethically. And what happens is there are fines, and there's the suspicion, and the consumer will go eventually. So we must ensure that the ethical way we achieve goals, it's at the forefront. And that's why, of course, ethics, good governance, compliance, those are becoming every day becoming bigger themes for organizations to do. And last but not the least is the R, because we want to be smarter. This is not just about even employees, it's for everyone. You want to ensure that when a goal is achieved, that there is some reward of sorts. And I want to make it clear, when we say reward, it is not financial only. In fact, it doesn't have to be financial. Recognition, ensuring that we give people, who have done good work, who have achieved goals. So effort is great, but those who actually achieve the goals, the teams, the individuals, that we recognize the work they've done. And I've realized in my, career of sorts, that at times the financial is great. The financial is great. It's really good. Oh, you get a bonus or something. But then the recognition, whether it's a letter from leadership, that you have contributed positively to us achieving the goals, it goes a long way. So this is a refresher of the SMART concept. But then this is also bringing the smarter goal setting framework. And you're asking yourself at every point in time when you set your goals, are they smart? Can they be smarter? So we started off talking this morning, first of all, around the recalibration. What has worked in the past does not necessarily mean it will work for the future. So we must always recalibrate our goals. We've now come into, and then from there, we moved into business objectives and ensuring that they are well aligned. Now we've spent time on the smarter goal framework. So we're edging closer to not the end per se, but to getting into some practical work. And the first thing is, like you see on the screen here, I want us to, and by us, yourselves, look at these three goals. And with your understanding of the smarter framework, smartening up these goals, is there a way that you can review? And let's have it, put it in the chat, come off mute. How can you make these goals smarter? What exactly can you do to make those goals smart. So I'll give everyone a minute to do that. And I'll be expecting your feedback in the chat. So on the first one, I will get my PMP certificate soon. I will communicate better this year. The team will increase company revenue. How can we make them smarter? So I'll be giving everyone a few more seconds. Please use the chat. Okay, I can see a comment coming through. Okay. We'll get my PMP certificate soon. Is that specific, measurable, achievable, realistic? Is it time bound? Oh, okay. Great. I see a comment. Thank you. I'll get my PMP certificate by June this year. Fantastic. Great. Thank you. I get my PMP certificate by September 30th, 2026. Fantastic. So specific. Let's have the other examples. Let's put it in the chat. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound, an ethical manner, and considering that reward at the end. Thank you for those comments. So I move to the next slide, which gives us a sense of how these goals could be smarter. So I will earn my PMP certification by finishing the online prep course by June 30th to qualify for a promotion. Remember that why? Why are we doing it? What's the purpose of it? There must be a why to it. I will hold, so you want to communicate better, I will hold 2 one-on-one sessions each month through year 2026 with my team members to increase the communication score by 2% at the 2027 Employee Engagement Survey. Specific, can be measured through the survey. Is it achievable? Are you able to hold the 2 one-on-ones? Well, this leader thinks they can. And it is time bound up to the end of the year. Also, increase, remember we had that statement that said, I'll increase the company revenue. Here we're saying, increase the company's monthly recurring revenue by 5% over the next 3 months by launching a targeted LinkedIn ad campaign. Could be. It could also be by expanding into a new sales sales region, maybe Southeast, specifically, maybe in specific regions, states. Oh yeah, I really like it. Clear and no ambiguity. Very good point. Thank you for that statement, because once there's any ambiguity, there's the likelihood that the objective may not be achieved, or it's achieved. Remember our pilot Bissing, thinking he was going to Europe, didn't recalibrate his flight compass. He ended up in Australia. So it could be they achieve a goal, but it's not what you intended. And that's why we say the SMART goal takes us from I'm being hopeful, I'm optimistic, I'm excited, I'm inspired, to this is what I will do to execute, to get to the destination that I want. So we are bringing it all together now. We are bringing it all together in the next few slides. And I want you, everyone on the call, so this is where I need each and everyone on the call, take a few moments and using the steps below, just draft. I'll have 2 SMART goals here. If you can't find, if it's just one, absolutely no problem. And put down a SMART goal for aligned to your business priorities. So remember, we talked at the beginning, cost reduction, client retention, whether it's production improvement. Write down a SMART goal. Include why it matters. Why is it important to achieve this? Ask yourself, is it well aligned to the business objectives? What are the success metrics? What will I see at the end of it all that will tell me I'm successful? The same way I know if by October 1st, 2026, I don't have my PMP, unfortunately, I have not achieved that goal. So what are, the success metrics? The timeline. So the PMP, that is what I want to achieve. By when? September 30th. So I'll give us a minute. I want to see a goal, a SMART goal that is aligned. So now this is not just a hypothetical example. Of course, please note that anything you put in the chat, ensure it's something that can be in the public space. And if you have to edit out any specific metrics, it's fine. But I want to see, based on the conversations we've had so far in the chat or off mute, a SMART goal, at least one SMART goal that is aligned to your business priority, the business that you are in, the business that you're working with, that whether it's service industry, it's manufacturing, whatever industry it is, fintech. Let's have it in the chat. Just one goal. And like I said, please ensure that it is information you can put in the public space. So we'll hold on 1 second, a bit more than a second. Have in the chat, let it be SMART. Why does it matter? Is it well aligned to the business objective? What are the success metrics? What do I need to see to know that we achieved? And the timeline. Give a few more seconds. See something coming through the chat. Okay. You're all a bit of time. And whilst you're working on the goal, if I see it come through the chat, then we'll come back to that. So you can take a screenshot of this so that it can help you stay focused. And remember, when I started the session, I said, at the end of the day, you plan your goals out, use the SMART concepts, ensure that the goals are well aligned to business priorities. But there is also the need to actually execute, to be accountable for those goals and to execute, because it could be that it's a great document on paper in your cupboard or on your PC that goes nowhere. And that, unfortunately, will get you to the end of the period and you see that the goal was not achieved. So here, these are steps that you can take to ensure that your goal doesn't fail and that you create structure. Because goals don't fail. It's not because they were wrong goals or because the people themselves were not good at achieving them, but at times we don't have the structure. We don't create the structure that we need to execute. And these are some of the things you can put into place to ensure that your goals are well executed. So, milestones. I put here, eat that elephant in bits, eat your goal in bits. So if you want to achieve your PMP certificate by September 30th, 2026, by each month, January, what do you have in mind to do? Oh, before I go any further, I see here, oh, fantastic goal. Thank you so much for sharing. To support the change management agenda of my organization and manage change projects, so that's why. She will register for and complete the ADCAR change. So we know the ADCAR change framework management program. So this is the what she's going to register for this program by December 30th, 2026, and improve risk assessment score by 2%. So the why is clear. There's change management that has to happen, aligning with the business need to create this change, and the what, do the program, the ADCA change management program. By when? The timeline is there. What's the metric to ensure that at the end of it all, the success measure is 2%, improve the score of risk assessment for the team organization by 2%. Thank you so much for sharing that, Faith. And then Chama here says that I want to have 90% client retention by April by responding to clients' inquiries timely and active follow-up with our clients. Thank you so much for sharing that, Chama. And I would add, you could even expand on this further by saying responding to clients' inquiries timely. Timely could be 24 hours, 48 hours of receiving an email. And then active follow-up. So follow-up, is it after initial engagement that you follow up within 7 days, and yeah, all of that helps to get you to the 90% client retention by April. So obviously, your current client base and you want to ensure that you retain 90% of them. Fantastic. Thank you both for those examples. And just as I was saying, using that example, I'll use yours, Shama. What are the milestones? April is 2 months from now. So you want to ensure that in February, you have milestones. So February, you ensure that, where am I with my, it's not even so much about tracking progress, but it's creating what we call, gates. So you are saying that in February and March, for you to get to your 90% client retention, what are you going to do in February? How many clients do you need to connect with? How many calls you need to make? The same thing in March. How many clients are you going to have, maybe phone call? So those are milestones because it helps you to break down your goals. The same thing if you want to grow revenue in a particular location, let's say in Southwest, in Lagos, and you want to increase Lagos revenue by 20 billion. It means that by December, January, you have sat down to say, okay, or let's start from February. February, I will increase Lagos Southwest, Lagos Southeast, in Idumota market, depending on what the product or situation. For February, I will engage 3 new customers. March, I will engage it breaks down because at times looking at the increased 20 billion, it seems so huge. That's the goal. But when you create milestones, that by this time in March, I should have 4 new customers. It allows you to take that goal in steps, in bits. So some call them creating mini goals within a goal. The big goal, the end game is clear. You want to increase revenue by 2 billion. But then you can break it down in those milestones. Check-ins, set up scheduled check-ins. If you're a team leader, you're connecting with your team members. Where are they on the go? Set up check-ins. If you're a team member, connect with your team leader. In fact, if you're an individual contributor, meaning that you don't report to, you don't have a team member, but you engage with people across the business, then set up check-ins with them. If you are in operations, you are connecting with finance. We're meant to have this equipment upgrade. We need it's going to happen in June. We want to ensure that the vendors have been sourced or procurement vendors have been sourced. So you are checking in. It's not in the last week in May. You say, finance, how far? No, this thing is happening in June. Say, fine. In itself, it's like, but finance should know. I would say if you are the owner of the goal, take it upon yourself to maintain consistent check-ins with people who are tasked to achieve parts of your goal. It's the onus is on you. The same way, accountability partners. Who can you partner with on this journey? No man is an island. No human being is an island. We work with people. So who exactly can you partner with on this journey? Who can hold you accountable? And I've had accountability partners who were not necessarily within my function, within HR people function, but in fact, someone I remember having an accountability partner who was in operations because I really loved how he was so structured in how he did his work. And I wanted more of that structure. So he held me accountable to certain things. And visibility. Who needs to know what you are doing? At times, the goal that we have set, and this maybe in another session, where we have to recalibrate. We are constantly recalibrating because maybe the goal that was set, there have been changes. And I would say that keeping your progress, your goal and your progress visible is your team leader for sure, your direct leader. If you are in a matrix organization with your strong dotted line reports, your team, those who report to you, and then your peers who, like I said, are critical to ensuring this goal is achieved. But most importantly, it's your leader, the board, the general manager, the MD, if you have vice presidents, it's the president of your region. You have to ensure that they are on this journey with you. So they may not necessarily be accountability partners. You may not, quote unquote, be checking in with them, but they need to see, they need to know that the goal is coming alive. You need to keep it alive in their minds. So when decisions are being made, your goal is taken into consideration, the achievement, because it is also well aligned with the business objective. And I see here, thank you for the comment. Austin wants to ensure he will follow up with everyone in his team to ensure that everyone is working towards the objective of the company. Thank you so much, Austin, for that. And like I said, we could smarten that up a bit. When you say follow up, how often? Once a week, twice a week, and of course, being clear as to what the objective of the company is. And we have here, I want to increase clients' retention by 30%, to increase revenue by 20% for 6 months by constant follow-up on clients. Fantastic, very clear metrics in there. Use of percentage is always great because it does give you that opportunity to see the success measures live. You can do the calculations of that. By constant follow-up, I'll say yes. How often? When? What days? What duration? What frequency? Just to smarten that up. Thank you all so much. I hope this points around being accountable and executing the plan, helps you to forge ahead on your goals, because it's not the goals that don't get done at times, it's the lack of structure. But that also takes us to the risks, that there are at times some risks that we cannot mitigate for. We do our best. If there is a natural disaster somewhere, we might not be able to mitigate against that, but could we plan ahead for risks? So you want to follow up. Peter wants to ensure the increase in clients' retention and he wants to increase revenue by 20% for 6 months. What could be a risk to that goal? New competitor in the market who wants to take your market. I mean, that's their goal. How do you mitigate for this risk? And this is just a simple way of thinking of risk. Do you accept it? Do you avoid it? Who do you transfer the risk to? Can you reduce it? And there's no right or wrong here, because right now there will be certain risks that are within your control. The ones within, okay, you're a business owner, within your function, you might be able to mitigate those risks. Maybe employees, if you're HR, employees are not turning up at work, fine, you can mitigate. Maybe you hire new people, you have a pipeline. That's a way you can avoid an employee, maybe it's immediate resignation. You have a pipeline, a nice pool that can fill the space. But when you have competition that also wants to enter your market share, do you want to accept it? Do you want to reduce it? How do you reduce? Do you want to do a promo for your customers? So there are so many risks. And the truth of the matter, I would like to say that we cannot go, always be fearful of the risks or the potential risks that we don't even know anything about. We can't be fearful of it, but we can plan ahead, especially, and this is where experience, maybe last year you had an experience that had not happened before, a risk that came about, a strike, maybe for the first time there was a strike, worker strike, or not even strike within your company. Workers outside of your premises, could be the road transport, fuel, whatever. And that had never happened before. Now you have the opportunity, as you are setting your goals for this year, to truly look at it deeply and say, oh, how do we mitigate in case? Because there's nothing worse than if you have an idea that it could happen and we wish it doesn't happen, but it does happen. What do you do? So risk and mitigation is critical in setting your goals. So all those goals that you have written down in the chat, I want you to think through, ask yourself, and it's something please take a screenshot. You can't do it after the session. What milestones do I need to put in place? If I say by the end of the year, I want to do something, what do I need to do in January, February, March, April, May? January is gone. So February, March, April, May, to that time, to ensure I can achieve the goal. And what are the possible risks? How do I mitigate? Do I accept? Do I avoid? There's some risks that unfortunately we might have to accept. Let's take, for example, the new tax regime. You have to accept it is the law, but is there a way you can mitigate the impact to employees? Is there a way you can, are there some tax benefits that you could get in the food manufacturing space now? There are particular opportunities. If you are into agriculture, there's some rebates they're giving for almost 5 years. So there are certain things that we cannot just say, oh, I have to accept. Can you mitigate? And I will encourage you with the examples you put in the chat that you also think of how you can mitigate some of the risks that you know of now or think might come into space. We're in our last 5 minutes of this session, and as they say, how time flies. And I hope time flies when you're having fun. But I want to take us to our closing and call to action. And the first, as we're looking at this picture, the gentleman is cutting some thick stone. Maybe nowadays there's machinery for it, but there's some work, especially people who create all those beautiful stone sculptures. Yes, that they actually chisel it themselves. And this brings us to the story of the stonecutter. And what the story really is, it's such a short story. It's straight to the point. That the stonecutter hits a rock 99 times with no visible change. In fact, all of us that are passing him are like, but Uncle Shegun, you have been hitting this rock. It's no change. Nothing is happening. But on the 100th strike, the stone breaks. He gets to either the diamond he was trying to get to, or he creates the shape that he wanted for himself. It is not because he did the strike then, the final strike. No, it's because of the previous ones. And how does this relate to objectives, to setting clear goals, to recalibrating our goals? There is no perfection. The more you do, the better you become. So start now with recalibrating your goals. Start now, today. Go back and look at your goals and ask yourself, are these goals smart? Are they aligned to the business? Did I just take what we had last year and bring it to this year? Have we really looked at the risks? Have we broken them into milestones? Am I giving visibility to who needs to know? And be consistent. Don't give up because it might be a hard task to do. Because it's by going through this process of taking your objectives through or your goals through a detailed and structured approach like we have on the screen, and I see somebody has put in the chat. It ensures that you actually hit the bullseye. It moves you closer to achieving your goals and possibly not just achieving, maybe even exceeding on the goals. And I would summarize today's session with the power of small wins. You do a step, you recalibrate, you fine-tune your goals, you align them to the business, you do it again, you win a bit, you recalibrate, you look at your wrist, you do it again. Each day matters, but you start with the first step of ensuring that you are not just taking the goals from last year, you recalibrate. It's not just one big action. Remember the Stonecutter, it's a consistent and aligned effort and approach. And your next step to achieving your goal starts right now. I want to thank everyone for your time. And if you have any questions, we've got 2 minutes. Please feel free to bring any questions that you have into the chat. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I'll just stop sharing now. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. Oh, Austin, it's nice to see you. My Peter, nice to see you. Who else? I think I saw Mr. Adebayo at a point in time. Miss Emmanuel, our HR, nice to see you as well. Faith, over to you. Thank you, my pleasure.
We really, really want to thank you so much, Ma, for an excellent session. My notes is actually full, and I was just typing out in my brain. I'm like, oh, I need to go back and kind of re-edit some of my objectives and see how to realign them. I like what you shared at the closing, where you spoke about win again, and of course, win more. It's To me, it's the biggest takeout for me today. There's no one big action that is going to shift everything. I also like that one when you shared around taking bit of actions that would take us to our goal. I love the Stonecutters example. For me, I mean, today, a lot of us, both new generation and old generation, we want to do one big thing that would just blow and everybody will be all right, you know. But I think the reality is every step of the way matters. And that's what's going to take us to our envisioned future. It's the same for people, it's the same for organizations as well. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that everyone took something out. Do you have any questions that you want us to address here, or you have thoughts you want to share?
I mean,
Okay.
none from me.
Yeah, if there's none, if after you watch the live replay and you have questions, you can always share on the group. That's a place for us to continue to engage. And if you have any contributions or any ideas regarding how to make this session better, we're going to take those feedback and also incorporate them into the next series of session. We have shared with you the idea or the plan that we would continue to. Okay, fantastic. Peter, I see your hand raised up. Can you unmute and ask your questions or make a comment?
Let me
Okay,
try and
he's
unmute.
Hello, good morning.
Okay.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Peter. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Madam BC, for the session. Thank you for the teaching.
Thank you. You're welcome. I hope you enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah, of course, of course. And sorry for coming in late, actually, although due to work and although work demands anyway. Thank you so much. So my question is, how do you really recalibrate your goal in a situation maybe where you have to get approval or where you don't really have full access to certain decision making?
Okay.
You know, sometimes it can bring a constraint, but how can one successfully recalibrate that goal or your particular goal? Is it maybe in a situation too where you need to get at a point where you may need to get approval for some certain things? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that question, Peter. I mean, the reality is that, like I said during the session, no man and no objective is an island. And if you have to, get some approval or alignment, and here I'm assuming that the approval or alignment is within the organization. So maybe it's from, maybe it's the GM, whether the approval is coming from the GM, sorry, or MD or the chairman, it's still ensuring that you are aligned to the business goal. Because ultimately, if there is anyone on the call here who has a goal that requires an approval from either a senior or a more senior level, and here, this is where I'm assuming if it's different, let me know, then it means that you are still aligning with the business objective. You are clear as to where you feel strongly that, oh, this objective or this goal, this is what I should be doing, but I need to get that alignment. So I do think that there's nothing. Unfortunately, it could be that you are going back a few times to get approvals, which may be slightly frustrating because you feel, oh, if I don't need these approvals, I can do it on my own and move faster. But if there's a need for the approvals, then I would say, on one hand, of course, engage with the senior leader who's requesting the approval. And then once they give it, you know that you are aligned. Then you can actually, with time, and by achieving the goal, show them that on your own, you are capable of doing and achieving those goals. And you might, maybe with that, you can start to show them that it's not necessary to always engage for this approval. But remember, I also said that as part, goals are good, are great, and they don't fail because they're not good goals. But at times they don't have the structure. So I'll ask the question, I'll throw it back to you as a question to think about. Are you connecting with this leader or senior person, on either a monthly or quarterly basis, where you are checking and you are giving them that visibility? Remember, I said that as part of the execution, visibility is critical. Whether it's your senior, it's the board, it's management, or even some of your peers, you need to let them know what you are doing, where that goal is concerned. The more you make the goal visible to them and your progress, the less you might need to engage with them for approval. So that's the second thing I would say. So, and the third one I also say is that, depending on what the approval is for, if it's a monetary approval, and this is where I've seen at times that individuals may have certain limits on whether it's sign off on spend. There might be an opportunity to review some of those limits to ensure that, okay, if you've been operating in this role for some time and it's clear that these approvals slow down efficiency, make it clear to the individual who's giving the approval that it may be faster if your limits are increased, so that the need for this approval becomes less, so that you are able to move faster and achieve the goal. So if I would summarize, I would say the first thing is there is honestly nothing wrong if there's a need for approval, because the more you engage, you are aligning, they are seeing your objective, they are also saying, okay, yes, I think I approve, especially if they are your senior ops. The second point